The Stranger. It started with a text, just one sentence. I like your new curtains. At first I thought it was a wrong number, but then I looked at my phone again. The message wasn't from an unknown number. It was from my own. My own phone had texted me, and that's when I realized someone was watching me. My name's Emma. I'm 27, I work from home, and I live alone in a small apartment. It's not much, but it's mine. Or at least it was. Everything changed after that text. I tried to brush it off. Maybe it was a glitch or a prank, but deep down I knew something was wrong. I didn't sleep well that night. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the curtains made me jump. And then, the next morning, I got another text. This time, it was a photo of me taken from outside my window. I was sitting at my desk working. The timestamp was from 5 minutes earlier. My heart stopped. I ran into the window and looked outside. The street was empty. No one was there, but someone had been. Someone had been watching me. I called the police, but they said there wasn't much they could do. No threats had been made, no laws broken. They told me to change my locks and be careful. But how do you be careful when you don't know who's watching you? The texts kept coming. You look tired today. I like your coffee mug. You should lock your balcony door. Every message was specific, personal. It was like they were in the room with me. I started double-checking the locks, closing the blinds, but it didn't matter. They always knew. And then one night I heard it. A knock on my door. Not loud, just soft, like someone was testing to see if I was home. I froze. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure they could hear it. I looked through the peephole, but no one was there. Just an empty hallway. Things got worse after that. I started hearing noises at night. Footsteps outside my door. The sound of someone trying the handle. I installed a security camera, but it didn't help. Every time I checked the footage, it was just static, like they knew how to disable it. One night I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed a knife and opened the door. The hallway was empty, but there was something on the floor. A note. It said you shouldn't have done that. I slammed the door shut and locked it, but I could hear laughter. Soft, mocking laughter, coming from the other side. I called the police again, but by the time they arrived, the note was gone. They said there was no evidence, no proof. They told me to get a restraining order. But how do you get a restraining order against someone you've never seen? I moved out a week later, changed my number, deleted my social media, even changed my name, but it didn't matter. The texts kept coming. I like your new place. You should water your plants. I'm still here. I don't know who they are or what they want. I don't know how they keep finding me, but I do know one thing, they're always watching, and they're not going to stop. Sometimes at night I still hear the knocking, soft like before, and I know they're still out there, waiting, watching, and there's nothing I can do to stop them. If you're watching this, be careful. Lock your doors, close your blinds, and if you get a text from an unknown number, don't ignore it, because you never know who's on the other side. The Office. My name's Claire, I'm 28, and I work in a small marketing firm in the city. It's not the most exciting job, but it pays the bills. I've always kept to myself at work. Friendly, but not too friendly. I thought I knew everyone in the office, but I was wrong. It started with a coffee cup. One morning, I came into work and found a cup of coffee on my desk. My usual order, almond milk latte, no sugar. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe someone was being nice. But then it happened again and again. Every morning, there it was, my coffee waiting for me. I asked around, but no one admitted to leaving it. Must be your secret admirer, my co-worker Sarah joked. I laughed it off, but deep down it made me uneasy. Who was leaving me coffee? And how did they know my order? Then the notes started, little slips of paper left on my desk. At first they were harmless. Have a great day, Claire. or you're doing amazing. But then they got personal. I love how your hair looks today. You should wear that red dress more often. I tried to ignore it, but it was hard. Every day there was something new. A note, a coffee, a small gift. And then one day I found something that made my blood run cold. A photo of me unlocking my front door. I didn't know what to do. I felt sick. Who was doing this, and how did they know where I lived? I thought about going to HR, but what would I say? That someone was leaving me gifts and notes. They'd think I was overreacting, so I kept it to myself, trying to figure out who it could be. I started paying closer attention to the people around me. There was Sarah, my bubbly co-worker who always seemed to know everyone's business. She was friendly, but sometimes a little too friendly. Then there was Tom, the quiet IT guy who always seemed to be lurking in the background. He was helpful, but there was something off about him. And then there was Marc, the new guy. He was polite, but he always seemed to be watching me. I tried to narrow it down. Sarah was always in the break room chatting with everyone. Tom was always fixing someone's computer. And Marc was always nearby, always watching. But I couldn't be sure. It could have been any of them, or someone else entirely. One night I stayed late to finish a project. The office was empty, or so I thought. I was just packing up when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around and there was Marc standing in the doorway. "Working late?" he asked. I nodded, trying to stay calm. "Yeah, just finishing up," I said. He walked over to my desk and leaned against it, his eyes fixed on me. "You know, Claire, I've been thinking about you a lot lately." I didn't know what to say. My mind was racing. Should I leave? Call security? But before I could decide, he spoke again. "You have a cat, don't you? A black cat named Luna." My heart stopped. How did he know that? I hadn't told anyone at work about my cat. "How do you know that?" I asked, my voice trembling. He just smiled. "I told you, Claire, I know a lot about you." He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I know where you live. I know your routine. I know everything about you." I felt a chill run down my spine. I didn't know what to do. I just grabbed my bag and ran. I didn't look back. I didn't stop until I was outside in the cold night air. I didn't go back to work the next day. I called in sick, claiming I had a migraine. But the truth was I couldn't face the office. Not after what Marc had said. Not after the photo. I spent the day at home pacing around my apartment, trying to piece it all together. Who was doing this and why? I thought about calling the police, but what would I say? That a co-worker knew too much about me? That someone had left me a photo taken from outside my window? It sounded crazy even to me. So I stayed home, jumping at every noise, every creak of the floorboards. I felt like I was losing my mind. That night I heard it. A soft knock on my door. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. And then it came again, louder this time. I grabbed my phone, ready to call 911. But when I looked through the peephole, I panicked and dropped my phone. What I saw was an eye looking back at me closely. It was Marc. He said he had just come by to drop off something from work. I told him to just leave it there. At first he insisted on giving it to me personally, but I told him I couldn't answer at the moment. After waiting a few minutes, he eventually left it by the door and walked off. The next day, I forced myself to go back to work. I told myself it was just my imagination, that I was overreacting. But as soon as I walked into the office, I felt it again, that uneasy feeling like I was being watched. Sarah greeted me with her usual smile. "Feeling better?" she asked. I nodded, trying to seem normal. "Yeah, just a rough day," I said. But as I sat down at my desk, I noticed something. A small folded note tucked under my keyboard. My hands trembled as I opened it. "Welcome back, Claire. I missed you." I crumpled the note and threw it in the trash. But I couldn't shake the feeling someone was watching me. Someone in the office, and they weren't going to stop. Later that day, I was in the storage room looking for some old files. The room was dimly lit with rows of shelves stacked high with boxes. I was alone, or so I thought. As I reached for a box on the top shelf, I heard the door click shut behind me. I turned around and there he was. Marc. He was standing in the doorway, blocking the exit. "Need some help?" he asked, his voice calm, almost too calm. I forced a smile, trying to hide my fear. "No, I'm fine," I said. But he didn't move, he just stood there staring at me. "You know, Claire," he said, taking a step closer, "I've been thinking about you a lot lately." My heart was racing. I didn't know what to do. I glanced around looking for a way out, but the shelves were too close together. I was trapped. "I know your routine, I know everything about you," he said. I felt a chill run down my spine. I didn't know what to do. He walked up to me with a creepy smile and grabbed the box at the top and gave it to me. And then out of nowhere, he tried to grab me and put his leg in between mine, while saying I can't take it anymore. I screamed and threw the box in his face, and quickly ran out of the room. I didn't stop running until I was back at my desk, surrounded by people. My hands were shaking. I didn't know what to do. I broke down crying to Sarah and told her what happened. She immediately took me to the manager and I told him everything. Afterwards he called the police, and luckily there was CCTV footage of the incident in the storage room, which was enough to get Marc out of there. To be safe, I also moved houses and got a new job. I hate to think what would have happened to me had he managed to hold me down in that dark room. The thought is disgusting. On the train. It started like any other night. I was exhausted, drained from another soul-crushing day at work, just trying to get home in one piece. The train was quiet, just a few scattered passengers, the low hum of the tracks beneath us, and the occasional robotic announcement from the speakers. I took my usual seat by the window, just like always, plugged in my earbuds, and scrolled through my phone. That's when I noticed him. A man, mid-40s, clean-shaven, wearing a grey coat, sitting diagonally across from me, staring. Not in a casual glance kind of way, not even in a creepy but explainable way, just watching. I tried to ignore it. Maybe he was zoning out. Maybe I was just in his line of sight. But every time I looked up, his eyes were still on me. And then as the train slowed for the next stop, he leaned forward slightly. "You always sit here." I froze. I yanked down my earbuds, my stomach twisting. "What?" "You always take this train home," he said with a polite smile. Same time, same seat. A chill crept up my spine. I had never seen this man before. I forced a nervous laugh. "I guess I'm a creature of habit." He nodded. "Routine is good. Same train, same route. Makes you predictable." My grip on my phone tightened. I didn't like that word. The train lurched forward again, and I turned my gaze to the window, pretending to be engrossed in the passing darkness. "Long day at work?" he asked. I didn't answer. "Marketing, right?" My breath caught in my throat. I turned to him, eyes wide. "How do you know that?" He just smiled. I pay attention. My mind raced. No name tag, no company logo on my clothes. I had never spoken about my job on the train. I forced myself to stay calm. "I'm sorry, do we know each other?" He chuckled. "No, not really." "Not really." I swallowed hard, glancing around. There were a few other passengers, but no one was paying attention. I shifted in my seat, gripping my bag. "Look, I don't know how you know that, but I'd appreciate it if you stopped talking to me." He sighed as if disappointed. "You always take the 8:45 train home," he continued, like I hadn't spoken. "Third car from the front, by the window. You get off at Maplewood Station. Your apartment is 2 blocks away." My stomach twisted into a knot. I had never told anyone that. My fingers hovered over my phone screen, my mind screaming at me to call someone. But then the train began slowing down. My stop was next. 1 more minute. I stood up immediately, moving towards the doors. He stood too. My pulse hammered in my ears. He wasn't rushing, he wasn't following me, not exactly, but he was keeping pace. The doors slid open, and I stepped out, but so did he. Then right behind me, I heard his voice one last time. I'll see you tomorrow. I bolted down the platform, past the exit gates, into the freezing night air. My lungs burned, but I didn't stop. I reached my apartment, my hands shaking as I fumbled with my keys. The door swung shut behind me. Lock it, lock it, lock it, I thought to myself. I twisted the deadbolt, slid the chain into place, then pressed my back against the door, gasping for breath. What the hell just happened? I checked my windows, shut, locked. I grabbed my phone. I needed to call someone. The police, a friend. But then a notification popped up on my screen. Airdrop request from unknown. I stared at it, didn't move, didn't breathe. Then I received a text message from a number I didn't recognize. You shouldn't leave your blinds open. I liked your blue pajamas last night. My stomach dropped. I turned my head slowly toward the window. It was closed, but had it been closed before? Then another message. See you at 8:45. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I sat on my bed, phone clutched in my hand, staring at the message. My mind was a mess of paranoia and adrenaline. How did he know what I wore last night? Had he been watching me? Was he outside right now? I forced myself to check. I crept to the window and peeled back the curtain. The street below was empty, no shadowy figures and no strange cars. But that didn't mean he wasn't there. I spent the night double-checking my locks, jumping at every noise. Every time a car passed, my breath caught in my throat. When my alarm went off for work, I realized I hadn't even blinked in hours. And then it hit me, the train. What if he was there again? I considered calling in sick, staying home, just avoiding it entirely. But if I changed my routine, he'd know he had gotten to me, and something told me that would only make things worse. So I forced myself to get dressed, grabbed my bag and stepped outside, feeling like I was stepping into a trap. Feeling like I was stepping straight into a trap. The train station was busier than usual, which should have made me feel safer, but it didn't. I kept my head down, moving quickly. My heart was hammering as I stepped onto the train. Don't be there, I said. I slid into my usual seat, clutching my bag, and my eyes were scanning the area. And then there he was, seeing across the aisle, smiling. Like he had been waiting for me. I forced myself to look straight ahead, pretending I hadn't noticed him. The train doors slid shut, and we started moving. You didn't sleep well, he said, just loud enough for me to hear. I felt ice drip down my spine. I turned my head slowly. What? He tilted his head. I can see it in your eyes. You look exhausted. My throat was dry. I forced out a laugh. That's called working for a living. Haha. No, that's called fear. My heart slammed against my ribs. I turned back to the window. My reflection looked pale. I hated that he was right. Then, under his breath, he added, You locked your doors last night. Good. But your fire escape window, not so much. A cold wave of nausea rolled through me. The fire escape? I had checked it, hadn't I? I wanted to call someone, police, anyone. But I was trapped, stuck on a moving train with him. The doors opened at the next stop. My stop was still 3 stations away. Then I saw something that made my stomach lurch. He was wearing different clothes. Not the same coat from last night, not the same slacks. But on his wrist, my breath itched. My bracelet, a small silver chain. I thought I'd lost it weeks ago. My head snapped towards him, my mouth opened, but no words came out. His smile deepened. I think it looks better on me. I couldn't breathe. He had been in my apartment while I slept. I needed to get off this train. I stood abruptly, gripping the metal pole with my shaking hands. The next stop was still 2 minutes away. He leaned back in his seat, watching me. You're about to do something reckless, he mused. A mistake, really. I swallowed hard. I ran, past rows of startled passengers, through the connecting doors between cars. I didn't care if I looked insane, I just needed to get some distance between me and him. The train slowed as we neared the next station. I pushed my way towards the door the second they opened. I bolted, but so did he. I heard his footsteps behind me, fast and unrelenting. At this point in time, the station was nearly empty. There was no one to call for help. I didn't stop running. I ducked into an alleyway and pressed myself into the shadows. Slapped a hand over my mouth to silence my breathing. then I heard footsteps, slowly passing by right outside the alleyway. Then nothing. Minutes passed. I stayed frozen, wondering if I had lost him. I hesitated, then carefully I stepped out. The street was empty. I exhaled shakily while my body trembled from adrenaline. I turned back towards my apartment and ran as fast as I could. Somehow I managed to lose him. That night I called my parents and had them pick me up so I can stay at theirs for a few weeks. They also picked me up from work, and since returning to my usual train journey home, I never saw the man again. It's a scary thought to think there could be strangers out there roaming around who know everything about you. If you have any scary stories to share, you can send them over to storiesofdespairbusiness@gmail.com. But if you want to see the full detailed story about an innocent boy who became a mass murdering psychopathic incel, you're gonna wanna watch this video. Just trust me, you ain't seen a video like this. Just click the thumbnail on screen to watch this video now, and I'll see you over in the next one.